We are live. We're going to publish zines, Rage Against Machines.
That's right.
How's everybody doing tonight? We got race week mode, Paolo.
That is correct. This weekend, it's the Miami Formula One Grand Prix in Miami. It's also the first. Now they're probably watching. It's also the Formula E round at Monaco. Formula E are the electric cars. That's on Saturday. And the first round of the Portuguese GT Championship.
Howard Stern,
which for me is working.
Howard Stern has been broadcasting from Miami this week because Sirius XM opened a new studio there. So I've been listening to him broadcast from Miami. He never once mentioned any racing. That's that. No, one thing I did notice this week, the production work for Bad Idea has slowed down since Bad Idea 2. So I guess what it was the first year they published was Bad Idea 1, and then this year they published all through the fall in the and through the beginning of the winter was Bad Idea 2. But I've still been doing a little work for them here and there, getting some like 12-page preview stuff out that I think that they use for promotion. But just today popped up in my Facebook feed, Matt Kint thing. I guess he's the writer on this particular book. There's something called Megalith that they've been working on a little bit. I mean, not a lot, but a little bit. And I knew it was going to be some sort of hardcover with wraparound binding, blah, 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 whatever. But there's a Kickstarter. All of a sudden, like a Matt Kint ad for the Kickstarter popped up in my Facebook feed. I was like, what? There's Megalith. I've been working on that. What is it? That's how out of the loop I am. So I clicked on it, and I think the Kickstarter just started a couple days ago, the beginning of May. And there's this beautiful art on this book, but it's going to be this huge, thick hardcover. I think it's got like $250,000 pledged to it already. I was like, whoa! I guess that one's getting made.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wonder when we're supposed to get it out. Because I don't know. I was doing, like, I've been doing some mock-up covers for it for the internet last week, but I didn't know what they were for. But there they were, all in the Kickstarter. I'm like, that's why they needed those for the Kickstarter. Okay. But it's like I really didn't hear anything about the actual book. I've seen some artwork from it, and it's really nice.
Right.
I forget who's drawing it, but I was like, oh, look at that! I guess I'm going to be doing the production on this big giant book sometime soon, whenever it's finished.
There you go. I've done quite a few projects where it's like that. We need these covers for the Kickstarter. Have it get ready, and it's like, all right, sure, just give me the specs, let me know what you need, and here you go. But I'm more, well, you know what, it depends on the company. So if it's from Apex, I'm more involved with their Kickstarter, so I get to watch it be launched and stuff like that, and I talk about it, so I'm involved in that way for that particular company. From other companies, I sometimes I don't know, sometimes I don't even know the book is out until I run into it on the stands. You know, there's plenty of times, and that's the thing with freelance. It really depends. Each company runs a different way. You know, I got some comps from Mad Cave recently, and the only difference between Mad Cave and Paper Cuts is the type of boxes they ship them in. So it's kind of funny to see it that way. And I apologize. I'm on a main road, and for some reason, motorcycles became the thing during COVID. So in this area, people have been tinkering with their bikes because motorcycles is like it's a bigger word than what they really are. They're they're these smaller vehicles that have engines on it, but I don't think they're really motorcycles.
I have to say, since going back to commuting to the city after COVID, the amount of electric bicycles that are in the city has exploded. Especially, all the delivery people have electric bicycles now.
Yeah.
So there's a bike lane on 7th Avenue, which is the avenue I walk down. And there's constant, there's electric bikes going down there. I probably see more electric bikes than pedal bicycles. It's amazing to me. I'm like, whoa. So they're all that. Everyone made the switch over.
And guess who doesn't stop for pedestrians? People who rent bikes.
Ah. Well, in New York, there's bike lanes, so they follow the traffic rules generally. I mean, I think they follow the traffic rules now more than there were bike lanes before there were bike lanes. I mean, before there were bike lanes, those bikes were like, wherever they had to be to not get killed, which might mean they might run into you, the pedestrian, on occasion. But
well, here at cyclists,
lanes, I think it's a little easier for them.
Yeah, well, here the bike lanes are used by the pedestrians because the cyclists don't want to use them.
Ah.
Also, traffic rules don't apply to them. Okay, here's what I do. So there's a bike lane over there. Here I am in the middle of the traffic. Light is red. I don't care. Here I go. By the way, it's a one-way street coming from the left. I use my bike to go through the left on one street against traffic, and this is a cyclist enforcement.
Yeah, I used to see a lot more of that in Manhattan before the bike lanes. I think the bike lanes cleared some of that up, but I'm only on 7th Avenue these days. Like when Marvel was on 28th Street in Park, I had to cross from the west side to the east side and up and down, so I saw more streets. So that could be it too. That could be why I saw more bikes doing crazy things. But I even as a bike rider, I would be, a little hesitant about bike riding in Midtown Manhattan because there's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, I never rode my bike in Manhattan, only in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never really traveled far on the bike.
Right. I travel on the suburban roads. That's easy.
Right.
There's not that much traffic. You still got to watch out, of course.
A few French cities are banning electric motor scooters.
Really?
Yeah, I read something about that because they're just causing too much. Well, I think they also said there's no bike lanes and people ride them on the sidewalks. It's like
no, when there are bike lanes, they ride them on the sidewalks and in the car lanes. The bike lanes are not used by cyclists. The bike lanes are also the guys who ride scooters. They don't know what traffic. They don't know what they think. There are no rules applying to them, so they drive. So they ride everywhere.
Yeah, you couldn't ride a scooter down Midtown Manhattan without hitting someone.
No, not at all. There's no taking a scooter, man.
The scooters are usually in the bike lanes too when I see them, but it's mostly electric bikes and it's mostly delivery people. Matter of fact, I've seen some of I think they have new city bikes that are electric. Before COVID, they started a city bike program, which is sponsored by Citibank, which hence their name City Bikes, with their ads all over them, where at different intervals there are just bikes that you can use your Metro card or credit card to rent for a while and ride them up and down the bike lanes. Now I think they have electric ones of that too.
Yeah, I think those are the ones around here are also electric as well. Because I know we have a whole bunch of city bikes. That was interesting to watch the city bikes show up because they're showing up in places that used to be parking spaces. And it's like it's hard to find parking spaces as it is. In the Bronx, but now they just ripped up certain spaces just to put bikes, and it's like, well, that should be interesting.
just before this show, I was looking up how much it costs to park in New York City, because I'm like, what? Because I've had train trouble on the buses recently. I'm like, what happens if I have to drive into New York City, which is actually the fastest way to get there. But to park in New York City for over 2 hours in a parking garage or whatever, because you can't park on the street that easily, $50. I was like, holy cow, guess I'm not taking my car in anytime soon. $50. I was just like, what the? Yeah. It's like, that's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So it would cost me between gas and tolls. Let's see, how much is the George Washington Bridge these days? $12. Cost me like $65, $70 to drive into Manhattan. And that's like, whoa. No wonder only rich people drive into Manhattan. So this comic, I was just one of the comics I got this week, which came in last week, but was damaged. So you got some reorders back in. Strange Tales 179, the first 178, pardon me, the first Jim Starlin Warlock, and man, does this look nice. This is just a beautiful printing of it. The paper isn't. I don't really complain about glossy paper too much, but this paper is more of a satin finish. It's not even glossy, but the artwork just looks so nice. Let me see if I can get you a couple pages here. It just printed up so well. There's the cover. And I know there are people who love the old newsprint, but man, I love this even better.
Yeah, Jim Starlin look. You know that Jim Starlin always gets a good coloring job, so it deserves the better paper.
It just looks the printing is excellent on it. It's the nicest printing of these I've seen in a while. And I actually I think it was around this past Christmas that I bought this whole Jim Starlin Warlock thing digitally on Amazon for like $3 on one of their sales. So I ended up rereading this for the first time in a little while, and I read it digitally over like I don't know, from like December to March or something. Whenever I felt like reading an issue, I read an issue. But man, I'm more impressed by the printing on this than I am on the digital one or any printing I've seen so far. It just looks so nice. Who did the coloring?
I didn't see that one on the shelf. I missed it.
Oh, Jim Starlin actually colored this. Yeah, it came out 2 weeks ago. Well, like I said, all my shop's ones were damaged, so they had to get them in again. They had to report them damaged. But wow, just nice, bright white. This is what I remember them looking like. Like I'm not a fan of yellowed newsprint because the newsprint wasn't yellow when I first bought it. Even though this was actually a back issue to me. I remember a friend lent me this. And I have other printings of it too, but I was really impressed by this printing. I was just like, wow, this is nice.
You were still buying superheroes when the special editions came out, no?
Yes, I bought the special editions in the early 80s because I had actually my friend loaned me his issues of it. And I picked up issues here and there, which I still have. I don't think I have the complete Jim Starlin Warlock in the original issues. But then I stopped looking for them when that special edition came out. They put in like 81, 82, 83, I forget when. It's when Marvel, I think DC did some of it too. On their new Baxter paper, they reprinted some of their old stuff. That's what they did before, trade paperbacks. So there's there's a Captain Marvel special edition that reprinted the Starlin stuff.
Yeah, Marvel did the Starlin's Captain Marvel, Starlin's Warlock, Neil Adams' X-Men.
I don't know if I got Neil Adams' X-Men.
That also with the
the Doctor Strange Silver Dagger story.
Okay.
Steranko's Captain America.
Yeah, that one I
Yeah, I
had.
got some of
Captain
that. I
America.
got the Doctor Strange, I think. And DC
And
did Neil Adams, Green Arrow, Green Lantern. I remember getting that.
yeah, they did something else. Uh, Legend of Batman or something that reprint. I think that reprinted the Ra's al Ghul stories. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember. But it's funny. I was also just before coming on, I was reading the indicia to see whose names were in there because I was like, "Oh, has anything rearranged or anything?" And it's like, published as a one shot by Marvel Worldwide Incorporated, a subsidiary of Marvel Entertainment LLC. So I think they've since dissolved Marvel Entertainment LLC, right? I don't know.
Yeah, either that or they dissolved Marvel Worldwide. I'm not sure exactly what
I'm not
happened.
sure which one it was, but Ike's name isn't in here at all. It says, what do
But
we have here?
that's the thing that I kept telling people about. One of these days, they're going to dissolve the Marvel Corporation, and they're going to put the profits at Disney, and then move the money around, and then the publishing of comics won't be profitable anymore because they won't have the licensing as part of the publishing division's profits.
We've got Kevin Feige, Chief Creative Officer. Dan
Yeah,
Buckley,
a movie guy.
President.
No, a movie guy is a creative person. Since when?
Dan
Movie
Buckley's been there. I knew him in the '90s. He left and came back. Same with Dave Bogart's been there forever, publisher and SVP of Talent Affairs. Tom Brevoort's still there, VP Executive Editor. Nick Lowe, who was an editor there in the early 2000s. I didn't know he was back. Executive Editor, VP of Content Digital Publishing. David Gabriel, VP of Print and Digital Publishing. I think he's the one who doesn't like Chris Girusso work. Doesn't think he's the reason Chris doesn't get any Marvel work anymore, if I remember correctly. I didn't realize Sven Larson was back too, VP of Licensed Publishing. He's a name from the '90s too. Mark Annunziato, I don't know that him, VP of Planning and Forecasting. Jeff Youngquist, VP of Production and Special Projects. He's been there since the early 2000s. I remember when he came on. Alex Morales, don't know who that is. What was that?
Jeff Youngquist is the reprint guy. He's the reprint specialist.
Yes.
VP of Production and Special Projects. Alex Morales, don't know that name, Director of Publishing Operations. Dan Eddington, Director of Editorial Operations. I don't know either of those two names.
No.
Ricky Purdon, Director of Talent Relations. I don't know that name either.
Nope.
Jennifer Grunwald, she's been there since the early 2000s. Director of Production and Special Projects. That's two directors of production so far. She and Jeff Youngquist.
They're good at making up names to give people in lieu of raises.
Susan Crespi, Production Manager. She's been there since the 90s. She was a bullpenner with us. And Stan Lee, Chairman Emeritus, is still in the...
the ghost of Stan Lee is still Chairman Emeritus.
He is still there. I was like, wow, who knew?
They probably have a bubble head with batteries and a microphone saying, "Face front, true believer."
There's Dan Carr is not listed in there?
Dan Carr is not listed in here.
Huh.
Wonder why that is. All advertisements and offers contained inside have expired. So don't go thinking you can get Spider-Man toys from here. Okay?
I may already have them.
Was Spider-Man spelled without a capital M on man?
There a hyphen?
There's a hyphen though.
Okay.
Spidey foam. World famous crazy foam in the wildest container ever. The container has Spider-Man on it. Adam Warlock, Strange Tales 178 facsimile edition. So if you're looking for a nice printing of this one, this is it. Look at that nice bright white paper on the back. Look at that. This is how I remember that Evel Knievel ad, not covered in filth and dirt and grime. I grabbed that as well. Agreed. It looked beautiful. Yeah, it really does. Oops, I'm about to knock over my marker holder down by my
The
phone.
only facsimile I saw this week when I was at the comic book shop, I did not pick it up. It was a Batman for Poison Ivy, and it had a shiny cover. It had like a metalish kind of cover, and it was like, that's not a facsimile. That's.
I didn't see that version.
Yeah,
I didn't see that version.
They had quite a few covers of the DC.
That's also a second printing of that facsimile because I have that one already. I actually saw that one on the shelf and went, I know I have that one, so I'm not going to buy it. Because I've bought doubles of the facsimiles on occasion. Because I think X-Men #1, I bought a second one of. Because the first one I bought in 2018. So, 5 years later, I didn't remember I already had that one.
and I have X-Men #1 in so many different versions of them. It's like, I have this in a few different. I think I have it collected. I have it in the special edition from the early '80s. But I just like these facsimile editions too. They're cool. Like that one, I would have picked up.
Yeah.
That one I would have picked up if I saw that one.
And it just looks so nice. The printing on it is terrific. And it says here it's what does it say? Manufactured between 3/24/23 and 4/03/23 by Fry Communications, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. So I don't know who that printer is.
I don't either.
I guess that whoever that printer is, they did an excellent job on this. I'm gonna have to see if I can who they are. Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Because I don't know if all Marvel comics are printed there.
I don't know. Where was that, on the Indicia?
Yeah, it's in the Indicia. The very last line of the Indicia in bold. And I know they've been doing that lately with where it was, when it was manufactured. But I haven't noticed who it was manufactured by. Yeah,
it has the same thing in this issue. I picked up Spider-Man #8 with this week's comics. And it's in the Indicia.
Because they were printing in Canada for decades. Curious.
Oh, they're being printed in America now.
Yeah. Want to do a read, rip, and slab?
Yeah. What you got?
I got some here. Let me share. Let's see what one I have up. Ooh, we're going to go with October 1992 licensed comics. Something none of us have probably read any of. Let's see. Present. Share screen. Window. There we go. There we go.
Ooh.
Wow.
Stuff I have not read a single one of. From October 1992. We get a Terminator Endgame #3. WCW World Championship Wrestling #9. An Interview with a Vampire #6.
It is very possible I had gotten an Interview with a Vampire, and I may have gotten that Terminator. I know I would not have gotten the WCW.
I didn't get any of these. All three of them are of no interest to me equally. So it's a tough choice.
I think I'm going to read Terminator. Slab Interview with the Vampire. And rip WCW.
Oh, I think...
seriously, Steiner Brothers?
Yeah, the Steiner Brothers.
Even I remember
cruising for a bruising.
even I remember the Steiner brothers, and I remember thinking they were so boring.
Wrestling
I
was
think
not my
Mike Lackey
thing.
had something to do with that WCW book. I think he either edited it or wrote some of it. He was an editor at Marvel and also wrote some stuff and a big wrestling fan.
I don't know if I ever had
a year
copy.
later. A year later, the Steiners were at WWF, so that's how I know them, because we didn't have WCW on European TV.
Scott is going to rip Vampire, read Terminator, and slab WCW.
I would not slap the Steiner brothers.
I think I want to read WCW, which means I'm going to slab Terminator Endgame because that's not a. I wonder who did that cover. That cover looks fairly cheesy, but I'm going to slab it and then rip up Interview with the Vampire. Because there's no reason to slab that cover.
There's no reason to slab that cover at all.
It almost looks like a colored pencil technique on Terminator Endgame, but I'm not sure. I
think it is.
Get a better copy of it. What was that?
I think it was colored pencils. Definitely mixed media.
Yeah.
Looks like a high school student trying to do Windsor Smith.
Yeah, it does not exactly look. Well, none of that. That's what I picked up. All three of these covers look equally sort of cheesy and unprofessional, even. Like that WCW cover, it's just like clip art of the Steiner brothers cut out and put on a white background. I mean, that's not exactly a high design right there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Interview with the Vampire is like, I don't know, early computer design that's, we've got a picture of fire. We've got this 3D art skull.
That looks more like a bowling ball.
Yeah, bowling.
Yeah.
A bowling ball with teeth and eyes.
Basically, it's so hard to choose because they're all
I find when I'm equally disinterested in all three of them, it makes it a tough choice.
Because I figured
that's what I try to go for: equal interest in all three, or equal disinterest in all three.
I would read the WCW.
All right, you're with me on that. We're going to see how cheesy that book is.
Yeah, the morbid curiosity. Because I probably would have been entertained by Terminator Endgame, and I've read Interview with the Vampire as a book. So as a comic book, I have no interest at all. But I would slab Terminator.
We cannot burn them all. That is not the game.
That's not the game. So I would slab Terminator. So at least it's contained somewhere else. and rip up Interview with a Vampire.
I think we've chose the same on that one.
I think so too. And as far as Dolphin is concerned,
I don't know if I
want a baby dolphin being held by in the Terminator, or I give the dolphin the gun to protect the baby.
I'm thinking flaming dolphin skull coming out of Interview with the Vampire. You can see that flaming dolphin skull coming right at you.
I'm going to replace Scott Steiner with the dolphin. So the new Steiner brothers are Rick Steiner and the dolphin.
Is he the standing one or the sitting one?
Yeah, Scott is the standing one.
Okay, because I was thinking about that, but I was going to replace the standing one. I don't know. I think the dolphin.
Yeah, I'm going to replace the standing one. I replaced the standing one, and so he's on top of.
Okay. Read Terminator, slab WCW, flip it to idiot wrestling fans. Oh, that may, you know what? And rip Interview. That may have been a good approach right there. Because I'm sure you can sell that. That would probably be the easiest one to sell if you slabbed it.
I would say that's probably the easier one to sell. Because especially if they went to the other one right after that, they're in WCW here. But Paulo mentioned that they went to another federation right after that. So that becomes a collector's item classic.
I wonder if there are any copies of these three slabbed. If only if you have to pay for access to the CGC census, so I don't have it. But if anybody out there has access to the CGC census, look up and see if any of these are slab. I can't imagine. I would think the WCW one would probably have the best chance of being slabbed. But hey, Interview with a Vampire, they're all
And I'm
third-party
sure,
projects.
I'm sure one of these books are in a box somewhere, but WCW, I never picked those up. That's probably one of the few Marvel books I would have had touched. But my brother was a wrestling fan. I don't know if he would have got them.
Good evening, Lord Tatman. Census is free now? Oh, I did not know that. I'll have to sign up for the census so I can look. See which ones? Okay, we can stop looking at these covers now. There we go. Back to reality. We're out of the world of WCW.
We're never out.
It's WCW's world. We just live in it. Wrestling, as we call it in the South. Yeah. Some wrestling.
I picked up a few books, but haven't read any of them yet.
Oh, you went to the comic shop this week? Or?
Went to the comic shop. This is 2 weeks in a row. So I'm
now that he's got that pull list, he wants to pick up his books.
Yeah.
And gets him out of the house.
So, that's exactly it. That's how I could run into former mayors in the street.
Yeah.
So I picked up Spider-Man #8. I know nothing about it other than it's Mark Bagley and Dan Slott because it's on the cover.
Yep. And now, is this the Peter Parker Spider-Man? I don't know who's in what book these days.
I believe because it did the opening did call him Peter Parker.
Okay.
Some event happened.
Is this the John Romita Jr. one you were picking up a little while ago? Is that same
No,
book?
no, this is a different book altogether. This one's
okay.
Mark Bagley and Dan Slott. So this is the sister book to Spider-Man. And I have no idea what's going on in this one. Mark Bagley.
Is the name of that one? Is the name of that one just Spider-Man?
Just Spider-Man.
And is the other one Amazing Spider-Man?
And the other one's Amazing.
Okay, so that's the adjective-less Spider-Man, as we used to call it in the 90s.
And legacy number is 164. Legacy to I don't know what.
Whatever that means.
Exactly. So it's like, all right, it's a Bagley book. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. He always left me a little cold. I was never a Bagley fan. I don't think he's bad, but there's just little stylistic things he does that don't sit well with my reading. It's just a taste thing. It's not really. He's a solid artist, but it's like when I'm reading a Bagley book and I get to one of those little stylistic things, it just takes me right out of it because it annoys me. Some of his like I said, it's just style. It's not anything right or wrong, but not one who floats my boat.
Issue 2 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Izaki Ojima.
I was just reading that one. Dogu? What is that? I'm just curious. I didn't notice that much. Because the name of the story is Where When.
Yes, Where When by Stan Sakai, and then it just says Dogu.
Why does it say Dogu? I didn't even notice that. I have no idea.
You know, that might be the name of a studio. Because it's on the same line as IDW and Nickelodeon. So maybe that's Stan's studio.
IDW Publishing, Stan Sakai. IDW, Nickelodeon, Dogu. It says it must be one of the sub companies because there it is there.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing maybe it's Stan's own studio.
Maybe Dogu owns Usagi now, and Stan owns. Let's see, is it anywhere in the? I'm going to need a magnifying glass to read this indicia. Hold on a second.
Uh-huh.
It is so small, that type, and it's white on black on the inside. Whoops. So I'm pulling out the big old magnifying glass. I got reading glasses on and I can't read it. Let's see.
Comics are
Copyright-
words and pictures.
Copyright 2023 Stan Usagi are trademarks of Usagi Studios, so who the hell is Dogu? Viacom? ICW Publishing? I don't see Dogu anywhere in the indicia. That is weird. Let's see. Special thanks to Julia Fuji, Dennis Fuji, and Jerry Black of Team Sakai. Special thanks to Lords Aracho and Jeff Whitman for their invaluable assistance. Special thanks to Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird for their roles in creating the Turtles. For international rights, contact IDW Publishing. All right, so the mystery continues. I have no idea who Dogu is. I don't see them listed anywhere in the indicia. But they're listed with IDW and Nickelodeon. That is just strange. Wonder what got him on the cover and in the page and the inside front cover.
I'm going to bet it stands. I'm going to bet there's some sort of deal where he has a studio's name on there or something.
Whose?
Stan.
No, but Stan Sakai's already got his studio listed in the indicia.
He does? Okay.
It says what was it again? Usagi Ujiro characters are herein trademarks of Usagi Studios Incorporated. So if there's an Usagi Studios Incorporated, what reason would there be for a Dogu?
True. Huh.
I don't know. The mysteries of comic books. But my go-to super old so you wear it around your neck to do your crafts. I actually let's see. My grandmother got this in May 8th, 1988. So I inherited this from my grandmother.
Nice, but it's useful.
From the Osbournes. So I'm guessing my mother gave it to my grandmother in 1988. And my mother gave it to me like 4 or 5 years ago, whenever. I was like, all right, I can use a magnifying glass.
I have one that folds up. That what happens is like it's self-contained, but then when you build it, it basically makes a pocket underneath where you can slide things underneath it and view it from the top. I use that.
Spider-Man number 7 is the first appearance of Spider-Boy. Hot book. Number 8 is the continuation of the story. And honestly, I couldn't give a shit. Yeah, I think we mentioned Spider-Man.
I got number 8. I didn't get number 7.
Did anyone else pick up Richard Corbin Murky World hardcover and Creepy Trade Paperback Volume 1? I have that Murky World hardcover on my Amazon list, but I didn't pick it up from my LCS.
I didn't see it out.
There's so much Richard Corbin stuff coming out that I'm a little overwhelmed by it. So I haven't gotten any of it yet.
That's a collection only of Corbin stories. It's not a. I'm not sure if they were reprinting the Creepy from the beginning, although I imagine that won't go too far.
The Creep. They were reprinting Creepy and Eerie and oversized hardcovers about 10 years ago. I don't know if they continued with that, but I had some of them. Going Saturday to pick up my copy of Murky World. Super excited. I think I have a hardcover of Creepy Volume 1. I think I only have Eerie Volume. I had like Creepy Volume 1, 2, and 3, but I sold them years ago. Hello, everyone. Just got Murky World today. It's lovely. So I'll be getting it sometime, but it contains color and black and white iterations of Murky World. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I've been seeing on Facebook the color restoration of some of that stuff that's been going on. It's pretty interesting. That guy, that colorist whose name I can never remember because I don't actually follow him on Facebook, but he pops up in my feed. Who I think also teaches at a college somewhere because I notice him. A college is associated with his name every time he pops up. But yeah, I like this. Have you read this issue of Usagi yet?
No, I haven't read them yet.
Good stuff. I won't spoil any of it for you, but I liked that they took care of sort of the confrontation right away. So there wasn't like an elongated, prolonged, drawn out battle between them. But it's funny. The character who is unknown to the son is Usagi's son, who's in here. I don't know. Did you read the first issue?
No, I have not.
Well, one of the guys in the first issue.
I have my pile of books to read this weekend. This week, I was planning to read it this week, but it just escaped from me.
Yeah, I think that Villarrubius. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, the colorist.
Oh, Jose Villarrubia. Okay.
What was that?
Yes, Jose Villarrubia.
Jose Villarrubia.
Yeah, it's from Spain.
From Spain.
We've had him here once when we had an Alan Moore exhibit, and he was invited because he colored what? A Small Killing? Was that it?
Villarrubia. That's a good one. I always liked that Alan Moore Small Killing. I'm gonna have to reread it. I enjoyed that one a lot. But I think he's he's like teaching in, I don't know, North Carolina or somewhere in the Middle East coast. I saw there's like a school associated with his name, so I assume he's teaching there. But there's I had forgotten. She's introduced. She's in like, I think it's this woman right here, who is sort of like the love of Usagi's life, but they can't be together for various reasons. And she has a son who is supposedly with her husband, but is probably Usagi's son. And he's in this book too. He's grown up now. I forgot he exists. Because Usagi jumps around so much, and there's so many Usagi stories. I actually forgot that one as I was reading it. And the beginning, sort of, there's a confrontation between. And it turns out Usagi wasn't actually, because at one point, this in the story, like there's this big battle going on, and Usagi and some of his crew are helping out this villager. This is in issue 1. Helping out this villager who's like, this Kappa is killing villagers. Can you help us? The Kappa is one of these mythological creatures, and this one I think happens to be a turtle too. The Kappa, and so then they split up to take care of the Kappa, go upstream, downstream. So of course, when the turtles show up, they think that the turtles are Kappa. And I'm like, how come Usagi doesn't recognize the turtles since he teamed up with them before? And the turtles are like, Usagi, isn't that you? One of the turtles, at least, who he met. And it wasn't Usagi. It was Usagi's son. I was like, I forgot his son existed. I was like, that's not Usagi? And then like, oh, his son looks just like him. I'm like, no wonder I thought it was I was with the turtles. I thought his son was Usagi when they were having their initial confrontation.
With the mechanics of time travel, you never know if you're meeting somebody again for the first time.
That was it. Also, I'm not sure because in this issue, Usagi is a general. He's about to fight in this big war. I thought that happened before he became a Ronin. Like, because he was a big general with his master, but then they lost the battle and his master died. And I was like, so this is a different guy? He's a general with? What time period does this take? So that's why, too, it's like, and with the time travel I was like, oh, they must have time traveled back to before they met Usagi. But I was like, no, it was Usagi's son. That explains it. But another good issue. Matter of fact, did you read? I don't know if you guys have read. I think it was a couple of years ago. It just reminded the whole big battle part. Just reminded me of. There was an Usagi War of the Worlds crossover that was cool.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Where they had to take on the Martians from the War of the World. They had, once again, it was the big battles and stuff like that, but with the Martian ships from War of the Worlds. That was like a 6-issue mini outside of the regular Usagi book, but it was definitely cool.
I have to look up. I do enjoy that type of a crossover. Like there was a Superman one that I thought was a lot of fun, especially when you have it with War of the Worlds.
If the Martians from the War of the World.
How old Usagi is? Good question. I have no idea. That.
Yeah.
Rabbits don't show their age, I guess.
Yeah. If the Martians from the War of the Worlds show up in 17th century Japan is toast. There's no way.
You would think so. I forget exactly how the story went, but they were toast for a while. I don't remember. It was because like there's Space Usagi too. I can't remember. I don't think it was a Space Usagi story. Like I can't remember if that. Like if you've never read Space Usagi, it's just like Usagi Yojimbo, except they're on spaceships. I don't think there's been any since the late 80s. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Old enough to have an adult son, I guess. Yeah. So he's got to be like at least in this story, he's got to be around 40 because it's because his son is probably 18 to 20.
Something that I find weird: why Conan is not running into a bunch of sons he's never met.
He should have plenty of them. Mm-hmm. Conan the King should have lots of sons and daughters knocking at his door. Hey, Pops, you're a king now.
Because he kept walking. He never stopped anywhere long enough.
Yeah.
I was actually.
They'd show up and say, "Remember that barkeep wench you met 20 years ago in Zamora?" No.
I remember being in Zamora. But I was actually just looking up. Every so often, I get interested in Savage Sword of Conan. Because over the years, I think I got rid of most of my Savage Sword of Conan. Conan should have hundreds of kids, yeah. I still have a handful of my Savage Sword of Conans, but I got rid of most of them. And most of them are from my era, which was late 70s, early 80s. Not considered prime Savage Sword of Conan, but a lot of good John Buscema in there, amongst other stuff. And every now and then I'm like, you know what? Because what it is, when Marvel reprinted them in the early 90s, they censored them. They, art corrected all the nudity out of them, removed any dirty words that may have popped up. So every now and then I'm like,
all the women have bikinis.
Yep. I every now and then I get like every few years I get nostalgic for Savage Sword of Conan for some reason. Maybe it's just because I know that all following versions were censored. And I'm like, oh, let me see if I can find it. And I was just yesterday looking at eBay for Savage Sword of Conan's because I also looked up Titan Books is reprinting them again too in omnibuses, but they're shrunken down. It's like all the Savage Sword versions. Like first of all, I remember looking through some of the Dark Horse Savage Sword omnibuses, and they just weren't printed very well. And they weren't magazine size; they were shrunken down to comic size. And I was just like, eh. It's like I don't want to read Savage Sword of Conan's shrunken down and edited.
Right.
But of course, I never bought any either. So maybe one of these, because they're not cheap in terms of like a random lot of Savage Sword of Conan on eBay. You're going to pay $5 to $10 an issue. So it's not like I mean, maybe I could find them for a couple dollars an issue if I actually went out into the world and looked. Who knows? I don't know how many comic shops stock Savage Sword of Conan because it's magazine size. And that always makes it harder to find. But
in Spain, they did a collection in Spain a few years ago for newspaper associated sales, and they were I think they were about $8. But the volumes were about 120 or 140 pages, and the stories were being reprinted out of order. They started with the beginning, but they were doing like start from number 1, start from number 2, start from number 8. Then the next volume would have 17 and 3 and 4, something like that.
Yeah. He says Sleepy says that the Marvel omnibuses of Savage Sword were also shrunk and only contained the Conan material. Yeah. Sleepy's been actually collecting the original Savage Swords for the last few years. So whenever I see him show them on his channel, I get a little nostalgic for Savage Sword too. I don't know why. Like, I think it's just because I really have no access to them because I don't go out and look for them. You know, Sleepy has been collecting them because he goes out and looks for them too. He's got like 3 comic shops within walking distance from his house. So he can easily go and find back issues. But it's like, I don't even know if he's getting the Savage Swords there or not. But I don't even know. My comic shop may have a whole bin of Savage Swords in it. I never go back into their back issue section to even look. So maybe I could be finding them, but I'm so busy buying new stuff that I hardly ever look for old stuff.
Your shop probably have boxes of them there for a quarter.
Yeah.
Piece, and these guys standing there going, "No one ever looked at these."
That wrestling book has 2 on the census. Ooh, there are 2 CGC books.
Quarter the market on that.
Yeah, 2. That's less than Clones number 1's 18. A 9.4 to 9.0. All right, not bad.
So somebody read them once.
Yeah. But Wilson's not interested unless it's a 9.8.
Yeah, it has to be almost perfect.
Whenever like one of I'm watching like one of the New York Warriors, their various channels, they're getting CGC books back. I always comment, it's not a 9.8, just throw it in garbage. I don't want to see it. Especially on a modern book. 9.6 on a modern book? Get rid of it. Throw it out. It's worthless. And by modern,
no. There are so many 9.8s. There are so many 9.8s that a 9.6 is a rare variant. a true collector's item.
Yeah. Now they're putting tears in it to get a 6.0. Though my Roy, my LCS owner, said something about, I was telling him about the clone number 1 I wanted. He's like, you should have told me. I've got some 7.0, something is killing the children, number 7s or something like that. He's like, I'm like, what? He's like, why do you have those? He's like, I was sending a bunch of, because Someone's Killing the Children was the hot book. So I was sending a bunch in, and I didn't even look at the back to notice that there was like something wrong with the back cover, and a 7.0 of a brand new comic is just worthless. It's just like, wasted his money. No one wants a 7.0, something is killing the children, number, 11.
Yeah, yeah, I have nothing to say with that because I would want the slabbing company to call up and go, "Are you sure this is what
Oh,
you
they
want?"
do.
Oh, they do.
They have a service with brand new books where you
Oh,
can send them a case. This is why there's so many 9.8s of brand new stuff. You can send them whatever book you got. Let's say you got a case of Spider-Man number 7s. You send them in the case and say, pick out the 9.8s and slab them. And for a fee, for a fee of looking through the books and just throwing away the ones that obviously aren't 9.8s, they'll slab just the 9.8s and charge you for those.
okay. I
So
thought that
they
they only
actually
did
do
that.
that.
I thought they only did that for publishers. I didn't realize
No,
that.
I think if you pay them for it, they'll do it.
Okay, makes sense.
It's a special service. The number 1 has 20. Yeah, I would think the number 1 would be slabbed. No matter what it is slabbed. Damn Murky World came out this week. Anyone ever see that giant Corbin art book from a museum in Europe? I have not. Paolo might be the only one who has an opportunity to see that. I miss the days of unslabbing videos. Yeah.
There's a shop in
I've
the
never
country
found that
who
too.
might be selling that book. Although I think there's a shop in the country who may be selling that book. Although maybe I can find it at Fnac, because I'm sure it's distributed to bookstores in France. So I think I should find it in the mega store.
When you said distributed book, I noticed too that in that Bad Idea Behemoth book, I think in the Kickstarter it said, like, get your copy and help get it into comic shops. So I think it being funded on Kickstarter means that they print copies for the comic shop too, which I think is what Kickstarters do these days. If you've got because when actual publishing companies kickstart things, it means they can cover their costs and actually get it distributed by Diamond too.
Or try to.
Or try to, right?
Yeah.
It's called pretty screening. You give them a grade and they will only slab those. Okay, pretty screening. The Corbin Art Book was a kayfabe channel. Okay, it was on the kayfabe channel. Okay, I did not see that. Man, they show everything on that channel, don't they? They make a lot of videos.
And people give them stuff from their personal collections.
Yeah, it's in a slipcase also. Yeah. And I imagine people give them stuff to show off now, too, since they're so well established.
Here, can you talk about this? What is that? Who cares?
I actually was subscribed to Kayfabe, and I stopped subscribing to them because there was just too much. It was just flooding my chat. I was like, I can't keep track of all this. I feel guilty for not watching it. So I unsubscribed. Every day, 9 a.m., Kayfabe puts on a video. Oh, boy. They weren't even doing them, I think, daily when I unsubscribed. But, wow, yeah, one video a day. That's a fair amount for sure. No, hey, but they're a popular channel, so why not keep putting out videos? I wonder if they make money from their YouTube channel. I don't know how many views you have to make money. But they must have enough time now.
At least 1,000 subscribers, and I think 20,000 hours of accumulated videos.
But 1,000 subscribers, I don't think it'll get you much money.
No, but it
qualifies
you for monetization. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to have after you get monetized, you have to keep putting out material to keep monetization.
Right.
Or you're excluding
Did you get Radiant Black 24 this week, Wilson?
I did.
Got it. This one confused the hell out of me. Because if you watch my pull list video, I tell you the plot of this, and it's the plot of Rogue Sun. It's kind of sister book. So
Right.
for some reason, I started reading this, and I was remembering it. I was remembering the plot of Rogue Sun, but this isn't Rogue Sun. It's Radiant Black. So I started reading this and went, did I skip an issue? Because there's actually a crossover coming out I think this month. A massive verse crossover. So I was like, did the crossover come out already and I missed it? Because this isn't where I left off. This isn't where I left off because this isn't Rogue Sun.
Right.
So I actually pulled out issue 23 to reread the ending again. And it was only then that I went, oh, I had this confused with Rogue Sun. Now I remember. So I gave everyone completely erroneous information on my comic book haul video this week because I told them all the plot to Rogue Sun. But a good issue with some spectacular. They went into this, it's sort of like the negative zone. They call it existence, and it's got this really colorful artwork.
Yeah, the artwork is. I flipping through it, and it's like I feel like I should be wearing like 3D glasses or something.
Oh yeah, it's just spectacular.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's just and the other issue where they went into this negative zone was really nicely drawn. They did whoever was the colorist on this did an excellent job. Marcelo Costa, Paolo's cousin, is the artist, and Igor Monti is the colorist. Really, really good, nice job. But you should have seen how confused I was when I started reading this thing. I was so confused, I had to pull out the last issue. Because I was remembering the wrong comic. Does 1 million views equate to like 15 grand? I'm probably wrong, but I heard that. It could. Yeah, I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
I hear it's about $5 per 1,000 views.
It varies. You can get 30 cents for 1,000 views. You can get $7 for 1,000 views, but yeah, but not much more.
Yeah.
Since I
should monetize mine. I should monetize mine only because I noticed when I click on my own channel, like on a web browser, they put commercials in.
No, they put commercials in, but you're not entitled to any of that money.
Yeah, I'm like I should turn on monetization just because they're putting commercials in anyway.
I don't think you can because you don't have the views.
I might at this point. I mean,
but they're putting commercials They started putting commercials everywhere and decided that they're not going to share the money with you.
Yeah. Because I never turned monetization on because there's no point in why have commercials when I'm not, but I think they just put commercials in anyway.
I think check off the box. Try to monetize. Check off the box. You do those whatchamacallit reviews for the markers and stuff like that. Put an affiliate link.
Yeah. I'll have to do that.
I'm flipping through the issue. Do they always have a code?
I think so.
Okay.
There's usually codes on. I don't know if. Let me see that one. You must. Oh, that might be a voting thing too. Only one of you can continue as Radiant Black, it says. And then that might be a code where you go to vote for which one.
Which one is your favorite? Okay.
Yeah, so because it says you must decide.
Right.
Matter of fact, why don't I?
Do you have to call a 900 number?
Let's see what it brings us to. Let me grab my phone.
I'll do it as well. See if we get the same thing.
Who will be Radiant? Oh, voting closes in 28 days. Yeah, you vote for Nathan or Marshall.
Oh, that's what it is?
It's all to get your email address too. You sign up.
Of course it is.
Ah.
Darn it, I can't remember which one's Nathan and which one's Marshall. Who was the original?
Nathan, Marshall,
I
Bueller.
also keep forgetting these two characters are in their mid-30s because the art looks so much like, Invincible that I think they're teenagers. But in the original, story, I think it was Nathan. Nathan must be the original one because his name pops to mind. Moved home in his maybe his early 30s, maybe he's 32, because his writing career stalled and he was in debt. So he moved back to his hometown with his parents. That's how Radiant Black issue 1 starts out. So they're not teenagers, even though I always think of them as. I just read Ed the Happy Clown, LOL. That is a classic, Ed the Happy Clown.
The other book that I picked up this week is Green Arrow #1.
There's a new Green Arrow
cover. I don't know if it's supposed to be the sketch cover. It's just an all green cover.
Or just a green cover.
Interior looks like. So that's the actual cover.
There must be a sketch cover then if there's a cover underneath it.
Yeah.
So
I picked it up.
Coded? How does it feel?
It has a good thickness, but there's no tooth to it whatsoever. So I don't know how good it would be for color. I mean, for drawing on. It's almost slick.
Is there a gloss to it?
No.
Okay.
It's not glossy, but it's but it has no tooth to it, so it feels like top press.
Oh. Nice color green.
Yeah. It's a nice color green, and it's like Green Arrow is one of those characters that I do like, and since it wasn't issue #1, I figured why not give it a try, see what's going on in the DC universe.
And speaking of Ed the Happy Clown, which is from Yummy Fur, Chester Brown book, what's the name of this? The company that publishes Craig Thompson's Ginseng Roots, Uncivilized Books is their name. I signed up for their newsletter months ago. Speaking of, you have to give me your email address. And so I was just reading their newsletter, checking out the sale on their site because it said sale. And one of the things that was on sale is there's some sort of book, an essay book on Ed the Happy Clown and Chester Brown. And I think it takes a look at Ed the Happy Clown and sort of looks at how it's constructed and how it went from a mini comic to a full-length comic. And the mini comic was originally unconnected stories, and it kind of turned into this connected story at the end. So the Ed the Happy Clown, I guess the collected edition is really a bunch of unconnected stories that got connected. And I think there's, like I said, it's some sort of book of an essay on how that happened. I was like, I almost bought it for like $6 or something. Maybe I will still, but I was like, it's interesting. You mentioned Ed the Happy Clown, but this is one I keep. Craig Thompson's Ginseng Roots. I only discovered it with issue 10. It's a 12-issue mini. I discovered it with issue 10 came into my LCS. So I was like, all right, I got $6 and nothing this week, so I bought it and really liked it. And that, of course, led me to their website and lottie. But I'm kind of like, you can still buy all the original issues, but it's like $50 or $60 for the 9 issues I'm missing. And I'm kind of like, I just know they're going to come out with a collected edition for $20 or $30. Even though
Right.
as comic books, these are really nice. I like really nice, like as sort of individual comic books. They're small, but they're on a nice paper. They feel nice. So I'm always like, ooh, should I buy? They smell nice. Should I? They got these ads and stuff in the back. I'm like, should I buy the original? But I've just never wanted to pay like $60 for it.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll wait till it's collected. But it's funny. If I had bought them over time, I would have had no problem paying. If I spent $6 an issue over 2 years, I would have had no problem with that. That's how I buy comics. But buying them kind of all at once for $60 is like, oh. Anyone reading Where Monsters Lie? I
No.
think I took I think that's the one I took out of the library a little while ago. I'm gonna have to look on my iPad and see. If that's the one I'm thinking of, I don't know if it is. I wasn't too taken by it. Let me check my iPad now. I think I read that one on Hoopla, so I can actually look it up. Have either of you guys read Where Monsters Lie?
I don't even know what that is.
No, that hasn't come up on any of my. That hasn't hit my
I think-
radar at all.
It's got a nice cover, and I think Hoopla kept showing it to me. I think. Let me see if it's that one or I'm thinking of something else. Show complete history.
I like their logo. It's a Dark Horse book.
Serial killers in the gated community. I get bored with slashers.
I don't think that's the one I'm thinking of then. No, I haven't read that one. I don't know what one I'm thinking of now. But I took a lot of the same books out over and over, I'm noticing, because I never got around to reading them. I may have taken it out of the actual library. So I guess I have not read Where Monsters Lie. Oh, there it is. This is the one I was thinking of. My favorite thing is monsters. That's the one I was confusing it with. From 2017 by Emil Ferris. I remember reading this one, just thought it was okay. Another Reed Rippin' slab. Let's see what we got. Let's go back in time. September 1946. Oh, looks like I named this one Creepy Covers.
Okay.
There we go. We got that creepy guy in the Human Torch. We got Calling All Boys with the creepy guy in the cover. We got the Barker looking creepy.
I've never heard of the Barker or Calling All.
Neither have I.
Human Torch, I've heard. Is that a Strongberg?
Calling
cover?
All Boys, I've never heard of either.
Calling All Boys looks like one of those magazine subscription services for Christian families or something like that.
Like Grit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But according to Mike's Newsstand, it came out the same month as these other two.
What was the publisher?
I don't know.
Should say
Right.
there.
I just don't know if I can read that thing. Let's see. No, I don't think it's high enough res to read. That's the problem with Mike's Amazing World is the images aren't particularly high resolution. Ba-ba-ba. Ba-ba-ba. Loved Monsters. Okay, he loved that one. Not yet. I'm curious because it's Kyle Starks. Okay, Carl Burgos cover. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a Carl Burgos scary face. I think he used to draw those. I have no idea who drew the Barker. But it looks like the Ringmaster and the Circus of Crime would fit right in there.
The Barker's from Quality. Yeah. Mike's Amazing World says Klaus Nordling.
Did the Barker Klaus Nordling?
Yeah. Yeah, and Calling All Boys is from Parents Magazine Press. So yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean that's some information as well.
You know what's interesting? I was watching. Just by chance, I was watching an auction on Heritage Auctions this week for Werewolf by Night number 12, the cover original art, which went for $13,000. And no one knows who did it. They've got some guesses. That's either John Romita or Ron Wilson on pencils, and 2 other inkers, it says. But if you look at the original art, it's clearly inked with a chisel tip marker in places, which I haven't seen too much of. Let's see. Sleepy's gonna read the Human Torch, slab the Barker, and rip all boys. Truth to tell, I'd also be curious to read the Barker. No one wants to read Calling All Boys.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the same. I'm gonna read Human Torch. It's a safe read. Slab Barker and rip Calling All Boys. Yeah, I don't care.
I'm gonna slab Calling All Boys because I'll be the only one with a Calling All Boys number 8 slab. I could have the corner on the collection of slabbed Calling All Boys. And then I'm gonna, I kind of want to read the Barker, but if I do, I know I'm just gonna be disappointed because I'd rather read the Human Torch. Screw it! I'm gonna read the Barker and rip up the Human Torch. I don't want to. But,
All right. So where do we put the dolphin?
Ooh.
Where do we put the dolphin?
I'm going to slab Human Torch.
I can see that.
That needs to be protected. I'm going to slab Human Torch. I think I'm going to read Calling All Boys because the Barker, that clown bothers me. That clown is not sitting well with me, so I think I'm going to destroy the Barker.
Okay, so I'm going to put.
And as far as the dolphin, I'm going to put the dolphin in Calling All Boys. I think the dolphin wearing that orange sweater.
Yeah, definitely. It would make that a lot more interesting to have a dolphin there.
If you're lucky, Calling All Boys could be discovered as a gay icon of publishing. Yeah, that'll drive my CGC price up. I'm checking the census for Calling All Boys.
Yeah. I can just imagine.
Eliza's reading the Barker, slabbing the Torch, and rip up Calling All Boys. Calling All Boys has 3 graded copies with 9.6, the highest. Wow, there is a graded 9.6 copy of Calling All Boys. Wow.
Yeah, you can tell that nobody wanted to read it because they only read a Golden Age comic once. So it's not.
So where were you guys putting the dolphins? I missed that.
On Calling All Boys instead of the kid.
Okay.
But the dolphin will be with the same outfit.
Mm.
I'm thinking I want clown makeup on the dolphin. The flipper will be holding up the plate with the other carnival people on it, and the dolphin will be in clown makeup. And I think I'll have him painted in that outfit. He won't have sleeves or anything, but he'll be painted like that outfit. He'll be an all grease paint dolphin.
Mhm. You know, and I know how to turn
Probably.
calling all boy. I know how to turn calling all boys into a gay icon magazine. Uh,
Prob-
do an article on saunas that no Christian boy would ever want to visit.
Who did you say the publisher on Calling All Boys was, Paolo?
Parents Magazine Press.
I'm just wondering. He said probably a file copy that night. I was like, well, I wonder if who would keep a file copy of it. Parents Magazine Press. That Human Torch cover is definitely the best. It did not deserve me to rip it up.
The Human Torch cover, I would put the dolphin as the mad scientist.
Ah,
If I was to put
are
him on
those
that
AIM
cover.
agents in the background?
They look like the Buckethead AIM agents. But
Yeah, they got yellow
they have
outfits on.
definitely yellow suits.
Is this the first appearance of AIM?
No. But they do look like them.
It is now,
Uh,
Paolo. Don't say no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Now
right.
it is.
We found out that now it is
It's
exactly
it's a prototype.
the new hot
AIM
comic
agent
that you need to
photo.
get now. For
Yeah,
first
Human Torch
AIM.
24. Original AIM agents. If it was calling all
Prototype.
girls, I would read that.
It's now a forever
Maybe they
key.
thought it would be a hit.
The Green Comics database says that it's a Sid Shores cover for the Human Torch, and that
Oh,
it's
Sid
signed, but I don't
Shores
see.
cover. Huh.
Yeah, it says that it's signed, but I don't see a signature.
It's such a small copy.
Yeah, but I found like
Probably
Werewolf by Night number 12. I find it weird that a comic from 1972 they don't know who drew.
Well, I've been taking a look at the cover, and from what if that thing is inked by Ernie Chan as they speculate, I'm not surprised they can identify the artist.
No, I don't think Ernie Chan ever used a marker. I actually, here's one of the things I do sometimes. I printed it out. Yeah, stop sharing. I printed it out just from the scan from Heritage Auctions, and you can clearly see, like especially in between his teeth there, that's a chisel tip marker, and this stuff up here is a chisel tipped marker. And I've never seen Ernie Chan use a chisel tipped marker, and I've never seen Ernie Chan do this technique here on the cheeks where you make those lines and then go over it with whiteout. So I would not think this was Ernie Chan at all.
Okay.
No
Any
way.
chance it's Tom Sutton?
It does look like a Ramita woman.
Romita would not be because Romita did art correction to the covers on a regular basis.
I think Tom Sutton did eyes like that. You say Tom Sutton, that might be.
I'm not very good at spotting Tom Sutton, but trying to remember who worked on this type of magazines at the time. I don't think it's Don Perlin.
No.
Don Perlin wouldn't draw a cover from that perspective.
And it's like even this fur technique you never saw anyone really do much of. So whoever inked this, maybe someone who didn't ink a whole lot of things.
What about Gilpin?
And I put the logos on because the original art didn't have that they were selling at Heritage didn't have the logos. So I scanned in some logos and took some of the stuff I already had built for the Marvel trade dress and because I wanted to print it out with the logos on it.
It looks good. Printout looks good.
Yeah.
What did you print it out on? What kind of paper is that?
This is paper that I've been trying to get that doesn't exist anymore. This is Koala double-sided matte photo, 66-pound paper. 11 by 17, and I got it off of Amazon, and it was fairly cheap too. This is like 100 sheets. I only have like 10 sheets left. I bought it a few years ago, and it was like $25 for it. It was the best matte paper I've had. And I've just went to rebuy it this past winter, and they're like, doesn't exist anymore. They now make thin matte paper, and it's like they put that there like it's a selling point. And I think it's 33 pounds rather than 66. I'm like, it being thinner is not a selling point to me because this is a little thinner than 2-ply Bristol, so it's good. It's a good paper stock. It's the best paper stock I've printed on for my inkjet, and I'm just like, I think they still have it in 13 by 19. I might buy some of that for about $30 for, I think it's only 50 sheets though, but I might buy some of that just because I've been watching for this to come back for months now, and it hasn't. And if you go to Koala's website, they still say they have this in stock. But if you read the description, they have a picture of this box, and it says double-sided matte, 66 pound. But if you read the actual description of it, it says it's the 33 pound. And I'm like, well, I'm not ordering it and getting the wrong stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, I've been trying to get more of this because it's great. It's really good paper for making prints on. And those Heritage Auction scans are pretty high res. I have to res them up a bit, but still, it holds its quality pretty well. But yeah, that is clearly a chisel tipped marker of some kind. Whoever inked, and you did not see anybody inking with chisel tipped markers. So it's kind of interesting.
So Werewolf by Night number 10 has the Tom Sutton cover. So.
Okay.
So let me share here and see if we can spot some similarities with
Let's see. That's all brush and pen work. But it's tough to tell in the printed cover that it's marker. I only noticed it in the original art.
Right. In any case, okay. So I don't know, maybe because it's not this. Even if it's Sutton on the 12,
yeah,
it's not him inking himself.
Right.
Which is kind of odd because Tom Sutton usually inks himself.
It's the inking that is so different on that cover.
Mm-hmm. But you know the face on. The face here on Jack Russell's sister kind of looks like the face on number 12.
Mm-hmm. And he did those really big eyes a lot. So
yeah, so it might be Sutton.
Might be Sutton pencils.
Right,
but no idea who
not
the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no idea who did these things.
He ever did that one cover.
Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, too bad Jack's face is on the side here, or we could compare it to.
Yeah. But that's all traditional inking there. This is very non-traditional.
Yeah. Right. So maybe
especially
they were late.
That, hatching with whiteout over it technique. You just didn't see that very much.
Okay, so maybe they were late and didn't let Tom Sutton ink himself?
I don't know who they would have got to do this type of inking. This is not you. It could have been someone who didn't work on many comics.
Would they let a prospective artist that they were testing ink a Tom Sutton cover for Werewolf by Night?
If they were in the bullpen that day, it could have been. I don't know who was in the bullpen whenever this cover came in, but there could have been somebody working there looking for his opportunity, saying, "I can ink that." And if they and if they said, "So and so, keep an eye on him," that could have happened. I don't know who it would be. Herb Trimpe was in the bullpen then, but this doesn't look anything like Herb Trimpe, inking or penciling. But that's what I would guess if it's someone unusual inking it. But it's not someone unfamiliar with the tools. They know what they're doing. Or it could have been someone using different tools, using what they had. That's why there's marker in it. It could have been someone who was in the bullpen that day, and they're like, "Oh, can you ink this for us right now?" He's like, "I don't have my pens."
Because
Like,
we have experienced historians saying, so Bob Bailey thinks it's Romita art. Nick Caputo goes with either Romita or Ron Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I was reading. But that's only the pencils. The inks, they don't like. It's the inks that are the surprise.
Yeah, so Caputo says Ernie Chen.
No.
And Lou Morgan says Alfredo Alcala.
No.
No, that's not Alcala. No. I mean, if somebody asked me if it was Chen or Alcala, I would go for Chen.
I would go for Alcala over Chen only because I think I've seen this, whoops, where is it? This technique right here. See how there's black lines on her cheek that are interrupted with white lines?
Yeah.
That is, you ink the black line down like normal, and then you take white out and go over it to make those skipped lines. And hardly anyone did that. Alcala may have done. I don't think Alcala would do that.
No.
Because those guys worked fast and precise.
Right.
And Ernie Chan wouldn't. It makes me think that it was someone trying to impress someone. Like if it was just sort of this fur technique, I might think Alcala. Because that's sort of fast and precise, but it might be even too much for Alcala. He wouldn't put that many brushstrokes in it. He'd know how to. Alcala or Chan would know how to do that faster, kind of. There'd be more blacks in it, and they wouldn't need as many lines to make that many lines. And also, there's these basic faces right here. I don't think that's something Chan or Alcala would do, is ink those like that. They would embellish them a little bit more. Interesting. Yeah, it's weird that, something from then, some 1972, they don't know.
Yeah. But I don't believe that Romita drew that cover. He probably did art corrections, which was normal for the time.
Right. That's not a Romita layout. No way. You wouldn't do that type of thing.
I'm still inclined for Tom Sutton and somebody else inking.
I don't. It's the inker that's the mystery to me. What do we say? Romita could have done the pencils. Email Romita and find out. I'm sure somebody must have asked him. CGC says John Romita cover. There's no way John Romita inked that. None. Definitely not Alcala. Yeah. Mike's Amazing World says Ernie Chan. I don't think there's any way Ernie Chan. I've never seen Ernie Chan pick up a marker on any of his books. They were all brush guys. It's Vincent Coletta. I'd believe it was Vincent Coletta before, but no. Vinny was a brush. It's that technique of putting the white out over that nobody ever did. Could it be Bill Everett inking? I don't think so.
Everett died. And Everett probably died. Everett died in 73, yeah? Or 74.
And he was pretty shaky by the end. I don't think he could have done that. Human Torch has 39 copies on the census, with 9.8 being the highest.
Not surprised.
You bet that 9.8 is a Mile High copy. Yeah, reminds you of this one reminds me of EC covers too. I picked up a nice copy of that 10 not long ago. Oh, okay. It's amazing that a comic like the Human Torch survived as a 9.8. Yeah, probably a Mile High copy from that guy. Yeah, the ink. I'm thinking, like I said, this inker was somebody we don't know. Because nobody I can think of inked like that in his face. With all those black lines with white lines over them.
I can't
And
place
even
anybody.
like
You can spot a signature there, can you? Anywhere.
No signature. Nope. Not even a hidden one that I saw. If it's hidden, it's well hidden. But even this like that rear view mirror was done in marker also. And comic artists just didn't work in marker in 1973.
Some guy at continuity.
Maybe. If anybody was working in marker, was that when did continuity open?
But Christie Bunkers was already a thing. Yeah, 71.
71. But why would they send a single cover over there? But if anything like this could get done, it could get done like this at Neil's studio. But Neil didn't have a hand in it. And Neil also used a Pentel sign pen when he used a marker. This is clearly has square ends, so it's a chisel tip. Instead of let me see if I can show you. Let's look inside his mouth. See how those end in sort of rectangles? That means it's a chisel tip marker, which is, let me see if I can get one for you. That's what a chisel tip marker is. Whoops. So it's you just draw it down like that, and it ends with that square at the end of the mark. And it's a very distinct mark. That's and you don't see it in original art. You don't see things inked with a chisel tip marker. This is the first thing I can think of that was inked with a chisel tip marker. Yeah, all these lines up here that have square ends are chisel tip marker. So
the inky get the on the car's top. It looks rushed.
Yep. Well, that was all blackened in. That was all blackened in the final. So you can't even see those marks in the final. It's all filled with black.
Okay.
So
there's probably a lot of Romita work there that in the final product that we don't see in the original art.
Right. And it was in advertising that they'd be using markers. So whoever did the inking on this was probably an ad person. Right. Because that's where markers were used in making marker comps and advertising.
So,
but like I said,
maybe,
but what's so strange is that mixed with this really, really precise lines with the whiteout through them doesn't make any sense. Because if you're sort of knocking this out because when you work with a marker, you're working fast. So that that werewolf face was you're moving your hand really fast. Something like this, all those lines, you do that slowly. That's not done fast at all. And you even take the extra time to go back and put that white out in. So it could have been this was inked by two people. The guy using the chisel tip marker, moving fast, and the sort of more precise guy making all those little lines and then going back in with the white out. I look at the hair. Exactly. You were seeing the same thing I was, Sleepy. The werewolf parts seem like a different inker from the humans. That's because they're different tools did them. And even different, like I said, even the werewolf in the rear view mirror is another technique, because it wasn't markers that made the fur on the hands, but it was markers that made the werewolf in the mirror. So it's interesting. Wasn't Don Perlin working in werewolf back then? Maybe he helped on a deadline. Could be. Like I said, I don't know if
he was working. The thing is, Perlin never did covers at the time. Perlin is too subtle for Marvel covers in the 70s.
Right.
So they wouldn't let him draw a cover. And when he was working on Ghost Rider, somebody else drew the covers as well. He did the covers on the New Defenders, but no, not even that. Mark Badger drew the covers on the New Defenders. So, so they never, because Perlin is a guy from the 50s. They wouldn't let him draw a 70s or 80s Marvel cover.
Yeah, it could have been two different people inking or one person inking in two completely different techniques. It could be that those faces were getting done too slowly. So then they gave it to someone else to finish. Who knows? Or the person who was inking those faces said, all right, I'm done with this technique. Let's get something faster. And pulled out the brush for those hands.
I am getting more inclined for Tom Sutton pencils and Krusty Bunker's inking.
Yeah.
And by Krusty Bunkers, I mean, if it was really an ad guy who stopped by Neil Adams' office.
Right. But why would it be at Neil Adams' office? Was Tom Sutton working there?
I don't know.
Was he one of them?
I think it's possible. I don't know.
I've been using Pentel sign pens since the 70s. They don't make them anymore. I buy the existing stock. Two things that are not archival and water soluble forever. They still make Pentel sign pens. You can go on Amazon and get a box of these. And what I do is I open them up, I pull the sponge out, and I refill them with Rapidograph Technical ink. That's how I use Pentel. And these are, if you look up sign pens, these they just stopped making. I got these from Jet Pens from Japan. These are called computer pens, but they're sign pens. And this is they just stopped making these one, a preppy sign pen. Same tips on all of them kind of thing. So they all that sign, but yeah, they still make Pentel sign pens. You can still get them on Amazon. I have a box of them. I buy a box every few years, but I like them once the tip wears down. I constantly refill them so they last me a long time.
But
you're right; they're not archival.
But even if Sutton, even if Sutton never was a continuity, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, if they were in a crunch,
I'm wondering how this could have gotten over to continuity, or if somebody with continuity was passing through the offices. I don't know.
Very possible. I mean, if they were in a crunch, I guess Marv Wolfman could send it over to them.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. You'd think somebody would know, it being only 1972.
Right.
But sign pens were also what Gil Kane inked with in the late 70s, early 80s, which is why all his pages turned to brown and are fading away, because this is not a permanent light fast ink. I think it's actually better ink they put in them now. But like I said, I still replace the ink with Rapidograph ink. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Back to that Human Torch is a Promise Pedigree collection. It went that 9.8 went for $27,000 in 2021. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But a Captain Midnight Promise Pedigree. I don't think I've heard of the Promise collection. That's one of those, because sometimes when they find a collector who had a bunch of comics, they give it a name. But sometimes it takes a while for the name to find itself. Good evening, Tats Comics.
Oh. It had.
Mm-hmm. Let me show you.
This is really this werewolf thing. Really.
It's really confusing then.
Yeah.
But by the way, King's Poet, here's my box of handheld sign pens, and it's 1950s design. And they still, I know they still have these too, because I was just looking up these ones to try and get them and couldn't find them. These were the only ones that I could find still being made. Here's the box of my Dong A computer sign pen. These I got. There's a place called jetpens.com, which has tons of Japanese. It's like they import Japanese stationery store things. So there's just tons, and here is left over from when I bought a box of red sign pens. I don't know, nearly 10 years ago now. Yeah, I tell you, when I saw this, it was so strange looking at it. Going, who did? And then I once again, I looked up to see who did it. And they're like, they don't know who did it. I'm like, how is that possible? Ron Wilson and John Romita are still alive. You didn't ask them? They did stop making them at one point. I was buying them on Amazon. Yeah, you can still buy them on Amazon. eBay, too. Like I said, because I was looking for these ones and couldn't find them. So I know they still make the other Pentel one. They don't make the John ones.
I really doubt that John Romita would remember who drew the cover to Werewolf by Night number 12.
Yeah. Promise collection. Man made his brother promise to keep his collection if he died in the Korean War. Turns out he died and the brother kept the books. Ooh. But the brother died recently and they went to auction. Okay, that's the Promise collection. Ah, man, that's a sad story. Yeah, you would think they could ask John Romita or Ron Wilson, they'd remember drawing it, but I guess not. But look at those eyes. I'm going to look at some more Tom Sutton, because I think those are Tom. I remember Tom Sutton drawing bulging eyes more than once.
Yeah, and from what I see from number 10, that's what makes me inclined to believe that it's Sutton pencils. It's not Sutton inking himself, definitely. Yeah, that's not a Romita cover, and if there is Romita in there, it's typical art corrections that he did. The inker might be the biggest problem. I think I'm not sure if it's Ron Wilson. I'm always thinking of Ron Wilson as a Kirby clone, but whenever he draws in his normal style,
right?
Anyway, I don't know, but I don't know with the horror stuff. I'm really bad at picking the artists. So.
Let's see, I've got some later Ron Wilson.
But this would be early Ron Wilson, back when he started.
That's Ron Friends. Wrong Ron. Wrong Ron. Different Ron completely. Yeah, the inker is a real mystery because the mix of techniques is strange. And the scumbling in of blacks is weird. Because even down here, he just sketched in the blacks with a marker. Let me see. This all started too because my top of the printer museum cover of the week is this battered old copy of the same thing. So it was just complete coincidence that this one popped up on Heritage too. But this is completely battered with pieces missing out of it. But you really can't tell by the printed version that it's marker. You have to look at the original art. What else do I have from Tom Sutton? I don't even know. I think I have some Captain America by him. Okajima collection was the little girl who was in a Japanese camp during World War II and had a bunch of comics while there. Wow. The crack collection's gonna hit hard. Boatload of black and white 80s comics and underground that stink of Canadian government hash and stamped. Yeah.
Terrence, you have to put your old comics using the same material that you use for your soundboards. You have to sell the comics in the boxes.
I got to get more of this paper. I'm going to have to buy the 13 by 19, even though I prefer the 11 by 17 because I don't always have a reason to print out on 13 by 19. But if that's what I can get, that's what I can get because it's good.
You still keep in touch with the Romitas?
I don't know. I don't really hear from them. I could try emailing him to see what he says, but I assume someone did. Mm-hmm. Last I saw John was at that thing for him at the Society of Illustrators years ago now.
Yeah, that was the last time I saw him as well.
Bunch may keep in touch with him. I'll have to ask Bunch. Totally using them as backing boards. Comics plus a Sins DIY kit. Werewolf by Night. And it's funny that this battered copy of Werewolf by Night, my sister Jennifer doesn't remember this. But when we were kids, this was her comic. And at one point, I just took it and put it in my collection because she didn't collect comics. And every time she saw it, she'd go, "That's my comic. Remember that. That's my comic. That's not your comic." She must have said that to me 25 times during my childhood. She has no memory of it. But I do. I remember, "That's my comic. Don't you forget. That's my comic." Yeah, kids are. And it's battered. It was her one comic book. Curtis code 202155. Paolo looks like he's still looking for information.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go. I don't believe Ron Wilson drew that cover.
No. I'm with you on Tom Sutton. I'm going to have to ask my friend Ed. He's a Tom Sutton fan. I'll ask him if he thinks Tom Sutton drew this. Because actually, this is his period, too. I wish Bob Wycheck could still see. I have my friend Edmar and Bob Wycheck and I would often go out to the diner, all the time. And those two would talk about early 70s inkers. Oh, yeah, and even did you see that again? And I'd be like, huh? I know a lot about comics. But these guys, their knowledge of early 70s inkers was way greater than mine. And for stuff like this, and for stuff like the obscure Marvel books from the early 70s. I was like, I always used to be like, huh? I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I wonder if Ed might have an idea. This actually reminds me a little of Ed's work. Not that, he wasn't 6 when he did it. But, just looking at it, this reminds me of Ed, and I know he studied Tom Sutton, so he might have an idea if it is or not. He spent a lot of time looking at Tom Sutton's work. I'm going to have to check with him. Mm-hmm. And speaking of sign, we were talking sign pens before. This is called a preppy sign pen. And I bought a bunch of these like 10 years ago now. They all dried out because I ended up not using them that much. But I was just looking through my box of supplies. And I had a bunch of spare tips for this. I was like, well, I got all these spare tips. I may as well, use the pen. And I looked around, and this was the only one I could find the body of. It's like you replace the ink cartridge, you can replace the tip, and still use them. I'm like, did I throw out my other ones because they were dried out? I didn't know I had spares and whatever. It's like this one is a red one. So I put black ink in it. Turns out you can refill the cartridge. Put black ink in it and was just trying to get it going. Now I've got this like Koh-i-Noor Rapidograph black ink in here with a red sheen to it. It's just got like a little red shimmer going on. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Well, they stopped me. I looked to order some more. They stopped making these ones. It's like, They replaced them all with fountain pens. Which reminds me, I just ordered it. I'll have a video of it coming up probably next week because I don't have it yet. I just put in a $350 art supply order. I was like, whoa, gonna set me up for the summer with art supplies. So I'll get some paintings and stuff done. But I was like, I ended up ordering that little desk vacuum. Remember we were talking about that last week? That vacuum eraser. Because it was $12. I'm like, I'm already spending $340. What's another $12? So I will now have a little desk vacuum to vacuum up the erasers on my desk. We'll have to see if it was worth $12. I want my $2 is I want my comic.
I'm afraid $2 is only 2/3 of the spawn.
Yeah. Can't even get a full spawn for $2 these days. How crazy is that? Though if they throw Batman in that spawn, it's $6. I was just saying something about that at the comic shop, talking to some random people at the comic shop, and I was telling him I buy Spawn because it's the last of the $3 comics. And he was buying Batman Spawn. And he was like, not if they put Batman in it. I need $3 anymore if they put Batman in there. Let's see. Did I get any other comics this week? What did I get? Parker Girls, number 7. Kachu is kidnapped. This issue is so cool in that the Parker girl, the star of Strangers in Paradise, Kachu, who, that ran 70 issues or something, and that was really about interpersonal relationships. It was about sort of the romance between Kachu and Francine, or they're not romance, their friendship, their romance, their whatever. And it was mentioned in there and not developed, I think, till later on, that Kachu was what was called a Parker girl. And the Parker girls were sort of this sort of independent spy agency of women, all badasses who, worked for governments and corporations and whatever, doing spying stuff and sometimes assassination, whatever they had to do. They were all badasses. But But those days were behind her. Occasionally, it came up in Strangers in Paradise. Since then, there have been more Parker Girl stuff in previous series and in preview. I keep saying previous and series after. All of a sudden, I can't remember what the word opposite of previous is. Future and later series, there was more Parker Girl stuff until we get this actual Parker Girls series. And in this one, there's a former client who's a billionaire, sort of an Elon Musk type, who killed one of the former Parker Girls. So Tamby, who's kind of the leader of the group, is like, "Hey, this ain't gonna stay. Someone killed a Parker Girl. We're going after him." And so she's been trying to organizing all these retired Parker Girls to figure out what happened to this one Parker Girl who died. She figured out the billionaire killed him and what to do about it. While they're doing that, Kachu, who's a former Parker Girl, is she meets up with this billionaire because she used to be his girlfriend or whatever it was. And so at the end of last issue, he drugs her. And you're like, he drugs her. She wasn't expecting that. So he drugs her and captures her. And Tamby is pissed. And she's like, we're going after this guy now. And so this issue is about her waking up in this chalet out in the woods of Switzerland, I think it is. And he puts her out there with a guard or two to keep her in place. And you're like, oh no, what's she going to do? And she's just such a badass. She kills him, kills the guard. It barely slowed her down. His prison for her. And I was just like, yeah, I guess she's a badass. He should have had a better prison for her. And it was just it wasn't even a contest. Her escaping this velvet prison. So it was a fun issue to read. And I think there's going to be another printing of Strangers in Paradise coming out too, in case anyone's interested in that. Have you guys read any Terry Moore stuff? Or any Terry Moore you pick up is going to be good. So, if you ever get a chance to read more,
I picked up Strangers in Paradise. When it was coming out.
In the 90s?
In the 90s, late 90s.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the books I remember picking up at Jim Hanley's Comics. Okay. So that would have been in the late 90s, early 2000s around that time. When, because I even had an action figure when McFarlane did one. So I remember picking up the books before the action.
Yeah, I always say that Strangers in Paradise really isn't for everyone, though, because it's very much a book about interpersonal relationships, which is not what a lot of people are reading comics for. The stuff that came after it was much more adventure-oriented. Echo, Rachel, there's still all interpersonal relationship stuff in it, but it's not always about, like the Parker Girls is an action book, kind of. 5 years that came before it was more of an action book. But Strangers in Paradise really wasn't an action book.
Yeah, and I think that's why I enjoyed it. Because, I'm heavily into Marvel and the DC stuff, so it's all the superhero stuff all the time. This was something completely different, and it was a slice of life thing that was enjoyable. Beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those things that I enjoyed reading just for the read. It wasn't... It was a nice change of pace of all the superhero stuff I was consuming at that time.
Right. But by the way, Lord Tatman, pardon me, Tats Comics, I thought that was a Better Off Dead reference there. I want my $2. That you guys ever remember that movie, Better Off Dead?
Yes.
It was one of those teen ski movies. The kid was trying to get on the ski team and this and that. And there was a paper boy haunting him the whole movie because he wanted his $2 because he didn't pay him for the papers that week. So every now and then this paper boy would show up. I want my $2. I remember when comics turned $1, and I was like, WTF. I remember when they turned 30 cents, and I was like, holy cow. I've never read Terry Moore. It's good. Rachel Rising is good. That's his horror one. Strangers in Paradise is awesome. It is. I pretty much read I read every Terry Moore thing too. He's an automatic on my pull list guy. Like his work is just it's boom on the pull, which is funny because when I think I got like a third printing of the original Strangers in Paradise #1. And then I didn't see it at my LCS. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I enjoyed it. But then I didn't see it at my LCS till like issue 9 or something. I picked up issue 9. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. And then I didn't see it again until issue 13. And I was like, oh, that's pretty. Finally, by like issue 20 rolled around, I'm just putting it on my pull list. I'm like, this is a comic I should like because it had a reputation by then too. Like I'm just putting it on my pull list, and Terry Moore's been on my pull list ever since. I'm like, I don't even because I try out an issue and kind of like it, but I would never see the next issue and didn't put it on my pull list, kind of thing. So I was like, I'm just putting it there. It's okay. I can afford the $2 or $3, whatever it was at the time. But good stuff. Let's see. Was that the last of my books for the week? Oh no, we got 3 more. We got Junk Rabbit #2, Jimmy Robinson's. I still don't know if I like this. It's okay. I like Jimmy Robinson's artwork. The world he built is a little weird, but I don't really know what's going on in this world because it's so weird. It's a world where, I guess it's a dystopia. In the future, people live in domed cities, except for the people who don't live in domed cities. They're out in the waste with no real economy and bad air and whatever. And there's a sort of religion that built up around this mythical rabbit. And so some rich kid from the domed city was out making TikTok videos or something and ended up getting killed by this junk rabbit who then then they sent police out to hunt down the junk rabbit. If it was real or not, they're hunting it down. So then the junk rabbit started killing some of the police with his scythe. They have guns. He has a scythe, and he's killing them. I'm like, really? And you can't tell if the junk rabbit is some mythical creature or as we suspect, just somebody in a suit. So it's okay. I might put it on my pull list because I assume it's not. I think Jimmy Robinson only does miniseries, so I think it's only going 6 issues. So I think it's good enough to buy for 6 issues. I'll have to look up whether it actually is a mini or not. Because I like the artwork. Whoops, I like the world building. There's a little face for you on the artwork. But the story is just not grabbing me, but it's weird. And weird is up my alley, so I might keep getting it. I thought, what is that? There's one other Jimmy Robinson book I read. I can't even remember what. I think it's in the back here. What was it? Because I think this is the first thing I've seen him do in ages. The Empty. That was it. Tanor finds a chance to save her people when a stranger with the power to grow life from death drifts into her empty, decaying town. It was just this weird sci-fi fantasy story. Once again, in some sort of post-apocalyptic world where things wouldn't grow and everything was desert. This guy could make the desert come to life, and they wandered around and had adventures. So I think I might continue with Junk Rabbit. Yeah, I decided I'll continue with it. It's only going 6 issues. He doesn't do continuing stuff. Like once something's on my pull list, like I've said before, I don't usually drop it. So that's why I'm always like, I like to know if something's a mini or not, even if they don't tell me.
Right.
Because I'm much more willing to put something like Junk Rabbit on my pull list if I know it's going to end in 6 issues. which is my own quirk.
So the last few books that I have.
What'd you get?
Just double checking. So I have Power Rangers Ninja Turtles 2.
Ah.
And it looks like the Power Rangers get some mutagen or something because they look like that they've changed.
Ah, okay. They change into like their actual animals kind of thing.
Right.
Snakehead.
And the Ninja Turtles look like they have Power Rangers type suits.
Ah.
So I have no idea what the story's like because I'm still looking for all the issues.
Yeah. What issue is that?
This is issue number 5.
You've got what, 4 and 5?
I've only seen 5 out. I know I picked up another issue beforehand, but I don't think I have all because I wanted to read it as a whole story. But by the time I found out these were coming out, they were already in production. They were already out.
Right.
And then DC gave away a book called We Are Legends. This is a free book.
Oh, okay.
And then
that's right. It's Free Comic Day tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
For those of you who don't go to the comic shop regularly. Because I have no interest in Free Comic Day.
Yeah, I normally don't go to Free Comic Day, mainly because, for Free Comic Day, it's to get new people buying comics, getting comics.
Right.
Like that. So
they already got me.
Right, that's the thing. So I figured I usually just leave that alone so new customers can get the books and stuff like that.
Right.
But I will be stopping by a comic book shop tomorrow because the shop that was near me in Westchester and Yonkers had closed down. I just found out that they reopened, so it's under new management. I was like, oh, I want to go check out the comic book shop that is technically closer to me than Midtown.
Right.
Because it's a bus ride that would be 15 minutes compared to the hour ride I would take to Midtown. I don't think I would switch where my pull box would be, but at least I like knowing that there's a shop that's a little closer up that I
15 minutes away.
Yeah, so I may end up going to that one. Just check it out.
That's the first appearance of all those characters for that DC book. Send it off to CGC, Wilson. What are you waiting for?
But I gotta read them first. They can't go to a CGC.
You can't read them their first appearances.
But I need to know why.
And I
also picked up, for the first time in a long while, previews.
Ooh.
So now I may have an idea what's coming out.
Look at that. Because you got the Marvel and DC one version last week, right?
Yes. So it was like, and then this one came out this week. So I'm looking forward to just seeing what's out there. But the size of the book, it's just so much.
A lot to look through.
There's a lot to look through. Companies I probably never heard of.
I got Howard Chaykin's Hey Kid Comics, Volume 3, Number 2. And this is the one that's the thinly veiled version of people in comics history. And this one, a lot of it took place during 43, during the war year, the World War II years. But since it's issue 2, this didn't have it in issue 1, but since it's issue 2, we're back to our character key in the beginning. And his description of the Jack Kirby guy and the Joe Simon guy were worth the price of admission, where he says, he describes, Sid Mitchell is his Jack Kirby stand-in. And it said, hates the deal when hired by others, delighted to offer the same terms to those who work for him. And then the Al Mendel is the Joe Simon guy. And his description is Sid Mitchell's partner and destined to go down in history as Sid Mitchell's partner. Poor Joe Simon doesn't have an identity of his own.
Oh man.
He's totally in Jack Kirby's shadow. I was like, there's a good observation. But he's got like, the publishers. He's got Verve Comics is Marvel. Yankee Comics is DC. I'm not sure Dan Fleischer in Top Drawer, who that is. Bill Rosemeyer, Kid Friendly Comics. I think that's Archie. Morris Adelstein lives by copying those doing it more successfully. He's the publisher of Verve Comics, so I assume it's Martin Goodman. Because there's a Stan Lee character, too. Bob Rose, he's the Stan Lee character. Yeah. His has grander aspirations than this, and will let everyone know it for half a century. I think that's reference to Stan Lee telling everybody how he wanted to write the great American novel. Which I came to the conclusion of was all part of his myth making.
And you can tell Bob Rose is Stan Lee because he's the one that has the anglicized name.
Yeah. And let's see.
I was wondering if I could publish that here. What title do I give the comic? Because I can't call it Hey Kids Comics. That means nothing here.
1943. A lot of them are going off to war in this issue. So they got drafted. Powerhouse is the Superman character.
And he looks just like Power from Power and Glory from Chicken's comic from Malibu.
So has Chaykin introduced himself yet?
Yes, he has. In the 70s one, he's introduced. Let's see. Ray Clark makes the mistake of thinking a foot in the door is more a function of his polish than their desperation. Ray Clark is Gil Kane. And Howard Chaykin shows, I think he was in the first issue, Howard Chaykin. I can't remember his name. But he shows up and they specifically say, I forget who, Ray Clark wouldn't bring him to Marvel. Bring the Howard Chaykin character to Marvel because he said he wasn't ready yet. And some other old pro brought Howard Chaykin to Marvel and got him his first gig. So there's some weird stuff going on with that. And Jean Murphy, Jill of all trades, who can do anything as long as you don't need her to do that. I think that's Marie Severin. Because it's tough to tell. There's only been like 2 women characters and 1 black character who could be stand-ins for multiple characters.
Right.
Like, what's his name here? Ted Whitman is obviously the stand-in for, what's his name? The guy who died young.
Matt Baker.
Matt Baker. But he didn't die young.
Right.
So it's obviously not a direct stand-in with Matt Baker, but I think he's Matt Baker, but he's also a stand-in for the abuse heaped on all the creators who weren't white guys.
Or Jewish.
The same with the 2 women. What was that?
Because or Jewish because he has to sell himself as a Jewish artist.
Right. And matter of fact,
mentioned that.
They mention in here a couple of times that one of the editors is commenting the Matt Baker character on how well he draws white people. He didn't think he could do that. He draws white people real well. And then, of course, he's bonding with the woman who's like, yeah, they told me I draw well for a woman. So let's see, where's that scene? And he actually has little scenes with the fans of the time, too. And there's scenes of them in the bar, like, commiserating. What is it? You could have knocked me over with a feather. I hired you to fill a niche. Who knew a colored boy could draw such good white people? Gee, Mr. Fleischer, thanks a heap. Call me Dan. Then the woman says, I got the same nonsense. Who knew a girl could draw like a man? I wonder if that who published Captain Marvel?
Fawcett.
Fawcett? Because it says, then he says, on the QT, we both might want to get our portfolios together. Good old Dan's being taken to court for plagiarism. So I wonder if Dan Fleischer defines what makes comics unique on the page and dreadful in the bullpen. I wonder if Top Drawer is supposed to be Fawcett then. Did Fawcett have a logo that looked like that red one right there, Top Drawer? I don't remember Fawcett's logo.
Me neither.
Don't recall if it looked like that.
But if he's being sued in the 40s, I think he might be and I have no idea who the editor at Fawcett was or who owned it or anything like that.
Fawcett had a black triangle with the price in it.
Okay. Who knows?
Then they started using a disc like the Superman DC Comics disc, but with Captain Marvel's face inside. Yeah, but I don't recognize that.
Here's a description of the previews. Now, it's not much content, really. Diamond lost a lot of publishers, including the big two. They just give books more space. So that's Eliza's description of previews. Still, I pick it up every month. I just got the new Bernie Wrightson art book from FPG Publishing. Oh, I haven't seen that one. It's called Bernie Wrightson FPG Years. I don't know that one. Oh God, there's so many good books out there. There's for an industry that doesn't have a lot of fans buying books in the shops every month, there sure are a lot of books. From books about comics to comics. It's amazing. Let's see, the last thing I got this week is Love Everlasting, number 7. It's all his paintings for that card set. Okay. What was that, Paolo?
So is it finally suffering the fate of all Tom King books, going nowhere and then fizzling out?
You could describe it as that, unless they pull off the end. First of all, the art is terrific. Elsa Charretier is just killing it for me. There's her big long name there. Some sort of French letters in there that I can't.
Yeah, I was wondering if she was from Quebec.
Yeah, but she's doing that, Bruce Timm, Darwin Cook type style, and she's really good at it, and she's really good at storytelling. But it's got a little tear in the back cover. How did that happen? This series is about a woman trapped in a romance comic. Mm-hmm. And so in the beginning issues, she was going from story to story. And then in last issue, she got trapped in this one story, and she kept trying to do the things she normally did to move on to the next story, but she couldn't. So this whole issue, she's been trapped in this one romance comic, and she's got a husband now and kids. But as she points out to her father, it's like, it's been 1963 for 10 years. I met my husband in 1963. We got married in 1963. We had our first child in 1963. We had our next child in 1963. And her father's like, you got married in 1953. What are you talking about? So so she's just freaking out this whole issue. She tried being the perfect little wife to get out of this story, so the story would end and she could move on to the next one. And that wasn't working, so she just started losing her mind and not acting right. So this issue ends with her in a sanitarium. So her father had her committed to a sanitarium. So who knows what's coming next? I have to imagine this isn't a continuing series, because how long can she be trapped in romance comics? But I'm really enjoying it.
But if she goes to sanitarium, I see that Tom King's therapy must be working, because instead of feeling sorry about himself, he's finally imagining revenge porn for his ex-wife.
Maybe that's what this whole thing is. But the artwork is just terrific. I mean, it's just terrific. The storytelling is just terrific. And then I see on the preview for the next cover has this cowboy on it. See the guy with the hat there? Sometimes he's the harbinger of moving on to the next story. So maybe she's finally going to figure out what's going on with her. And I mean, it can't go. This is issue 7. It can't go more than I don't know. I would think at 8 issues he could wrap it up in the way it's moving. But the story is structured so weird that who knows? I got a little. I just noticed I got a little tiny tear. Whoops, over here.
Yeah.
In my comic book, that gets worse every time I put it in a bag. I'm going to have to get a new copy so that doesn't drive me crazy the rest of my life. Or put it on the shelf and never look at it.
CGC 6.5.
Yeah. Oh, the sketches and the prelims are amazing in Bernie's book. Yeah. Fun. Love Everlasting is a very fun read. I just reread Thicker Than Blood by Plug and Simon Bisley. Oh, I don't know that one. Not many know about the 3-issue series. I am one of the not many who doesn't know about Thicker Than Blood. I follow Mike Plug on Facebook, too. I always like seeing his art. Pen and ink with Bisley painting over it. Okay. I'll have to look. Thicker Than Blood by Plug and Bisley. Let me write that down with my new working fountain pen. My Rotring art pen from the 90s, which I never used much. They didn't make cartridges for anymore, but thankfully it takes a standard fountain pen cartridge. So I just, after 10 years, I decided to get it working again for no particular reason. Because I'm not much of a fountain pen guy. And speaking of, I got another one working too. Tell you the story of the endless Marvel supply closet. Here is the Rotring 600 fountain pen. And this is like a $125 fountain pen. And I think it was in the waning days of the endless Marvel supply closet. For those of you who don't know what the endless Marvel supply closet was, it was the closet full of art supplies at Marvel Comics. And the reason we called it the endless supply of art is you could go in, any artist who worked for Marvel could go in and get supplies, brushes, pens, ink, paper, whatever art supply you could think of, they had in this closet. Because like every other corporation, they have a budget. And if you don't spend that budget, that means they reduce that budget. So they were forever buying art supplies. I mean, the art supply salesman from, who did Marvel use? Wilson?
They originally used Plaza.
I think it was from Plaza.
They originally used
the
Plaza
salesman
across the street from the Empire State Building.
I think that was I think it was Plaza Art Supplies. I remember seeing that. But the salesman used to come in once a week. And I remember Ed Murr telling me, and he drives a Jaguar. That's how much money they were making from Marvel, because Marvel is just, they had their budget for art supplies, and Dawn made sure it was spent. So one day I saw John Babcock, who was a letterer there. And he had lettering tools like where's my 107? I don't have. Let's just say this is a 107 dip pen, and the lettering tools were actually like they were pennies. You know, the handle was like $1.25, and the nibs were like 50 cents a piece. So they were not expensive. But the letterers they had to prep their lettering pens just a special way. So they had to sand them down, get them up. So that they put work into working their tools. So I saw John Babcock had this case that he opened up, and it was like cushioned inside with these sort of V cushions. And it was about that size, the size of a pencil case. And he opened it up, and you could lay all of the tools in there in the different V's. Put maybe 3 or 4 in there and close, and it snapped closed. I was like, whoa, that is the coolest case ever. I'm like, where did you get that? And he's like, I can't really tell you, but ask Dawn about it. And I was like, what? So I went in there and I was like, Dawn, I really liked that cool art case that John Babcock has. It's like, where did you get those from? She's like, you can't tell anyone. I'm like, okay. She's like, I accidentally bought these expensive pens. We don't want anybody to find out. We bought these expensive pens. You want one? And I was like, sure. All I really wanted was a case, but this is the pen. I still have the cases. I think it's in the other drawer because I don't keep the pen in the case. I used to carry, pen. I used to carry $6 lettering pens in that case, but this is the $125 pen that came in that rotary pen that came in that case. And for years it wasn't working because it turns out you can't put India ink in one of these. You have to use fountain pen ink. Because India ink, the particles are too big. I didn't know that when I had it in the 90s, so it was always clogging on me, so I never used it. So I just happened to pull it out again and said, let me see if I can get this working. I got fountain pen ink now. So I did. I've got a nice little brown fountain pen ink in it, but that's the story of the Rotring 600. And I was looking at you'd pay $125, $150 for one of these still on eBay, even though they don't make these particular ones anymore. So they're still in demand fountain pens. So it's like, oh, okay. the endless Marvel supply closet, but don't let them know you accidentally bought expensive pens. She and I think she bought like 5 of them. So she must have spent $700-800 on these pens accidentally somehow. I was like, whoop, let's keep that quiet.
Right.
Well, gave me one because they had no use, It's not like Marvel had any use for these fancy fountain pens, and she didn't want anyone knowing that they accidentally got in there. And I guess everything was okay.
Yeah.
Because
gets put in there somehow.
But eventually, sometime in the mid-90s, when bankruptcy happened, it was the end of the endless Marvel art supply closet. It became a guarded art supply closet with the budget was much, much smaller, and they hardly had anything in it.
Oh,
and wouldn't let
beg for paper.
Yeah.
This is so wrong.
I just noticed, I forgot, I just ran across it today. I have a case of the Marvel paste up paper that Jerry Kalinowski gave me just before COVID, because when Marvel was giving away, it's for those of you who don't know, for years, and I don't think they still do it. Every comic book company had blue line paper printed up So the artists would do the artwork at the right size and would just hand it out to the artists who then, drew their Marvel comics on Marvel paper, their Image comics on Image paper, their DC comics on DC paper. I don't know if Dark Horse had paper, but they had illustration quality paper. And they also had paper that wasn't quite as good just for paste up. In case you had to paste something down on paper that that was the same size as the art paper. It was for production purposes, but it said on it used for paste up only, which meant you couldn't really ink on it. Though Jacob Chabot inked on it all the time. He didn't care. He was like, it's still good for inking because the ink would spread more than it would on their illustration quality paper. But Jacob's like, I remember Jacob being like, I ink on it all the time. There's no problem. But I just noticed I have the stack is like 3 or 4 inches thick. I guess Jerry must have taken a stack home and just kept it there. And he gave it to me when he was moving apartments before COVID, he gave me a bunch of his comics, which are still sitting there out in the garage unlooked at. And he must have given me this stack of paper too. So I just ran across it today and I was like, oh, look at this. Marvel paste up paper. I'm gonna have to do something with this.
I think I still have a few sheets of those somewhere around here.
Yeah, it's like I have a few sheets of like cover paper, a few sheets of Marvel music paper, but not a lot. Not like a whole stack like I have. I was like, whoo. But it's like you can pencil on it just fine.
Yeah.
And like I said, according to Jacob, you can ink on it just fine too.
I'm almost sure I must have done some artwork and inked on it and had no real problems with it.
Right. Right. Let's do one last read, rip, and slab before we leave. Let's see. We're going to go to, should we do the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s? Which do you want me to pick?
I'm curious with the 80s.
All right, we're going to pick the 80s. August 1985, we've got. There we go. August 1985. Some pretty good comics here.
This tree.
Got Ms. Tree 21, Daredevil 225, and Swamp Thing 42. Is that one of the Mazzucchelli Daredevils? Is it right before it?
The last one before it.
Last one before. Okay. So I bought the other two. I don't think I ever bought that Daredevil 225.
I'm almost positive I have that Daredevil.
But I know I still have the Alan Moore Swamp Thing and the Ms. Tree, Max Collins and Terry Beatty.
This tree looks familiar, but I don't remember if I was buying those. Who published that?
That was a regular on my pull list.
Who was publishing
She was a
that?
hard-boiled detective. DC published a little of it in the 90s.
At the
And it
time,
had
I think
some
it was
good
Eclipse. No, Renegade Press.
That's I think Eclipse may have. I think she bounced around from publishers.
Yeah.
To publish. She bounced around.
But I think that one's Renegade.
Yeah, that one's Renegade. Definitely, I can see their logo up in the top left.
I would read Miss Tree. I don't know it.
Right.
Slab Swamp Thing. Ooh.
Have to tear up that Daredevil with that nice.
Damn.
Who did that Daredevil cover? That's a nice cover.
That's a really nice cover.
It may have been Mazzucchelli. I think he was doing the covers.
I think it's Mazzucchelli.
Yeah. It looks like Mazzucchelli. That's a nice cover.
It's Mazzucchelli art inside. It's one of the last Danny O'Neill comics.
Okay, it was because I know I started with the issue because I was like, what, Frank Miller's back on Daredevil, and I immediately picked up 226 because I wasn't buying Marvel comics regularly at that time. I don't think. No, it's August 85. I wasn't.
August 85.
I was still buying Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
I was 2 years into buying comics. So
Yeah.
I would have picked that one up.
So
Oh,
you didn't know about
ripped that
Mystery.
one, but yeah.
He's gonna rip that book. Yeah, that's a like I said, I like all of these. Like I've never even read that Daredevil, but I like it just for its cover. This is a tough this is a tough one because I kind of like these all equally. Like I was disinterested in the other ones all equally. I'm kind of
Right.
interested in these ones all equally.
Yeah, I think I'll stick to reading Mystery, slabbing Swamp Thing, and cutting up Daredevil. And then it's just as hard to figure out where would I put the Dolphin.
Yeah.
The Dolphin with the gun going die, die, die. I think
I don't want to set the Dolphin on fire.
I don't either. And then maybe the Dolphin beating up Daredevil, but not getting hit. Now I'll stick with the Dolphin on the cover, shooting, saying die, die, die.
Oh, know where I might put the Dolphin?
Where at?
I might turn that Daredevil logo into the Dolphin. So I have the Dolphin on the top of the building, spelling out Daredevil.
that would work too.
No, what I'm picturing is Daredevil. Is a Daredevil comic where we have the cover is the Vulture beating up Daredevil, but everyone's focused on what the hell is a Dolphin doing there.
So you don't even want the Dolphin spelling Daredevil. Okay.
Yeah, no, I just need a Dolphin.
Just needs the Dolphin instead of the logo. In nicely in perspective across the whole room. Lord Tapman was voting for the 60s. We'll have to wait for next week for that. I read the Swamp Thing in high school. Absolutely blew me away. We must be around the same age because I read that around 85. I had graduated high school in 84, but it started in high school that run. Daredevil for me all day. You know what? I really like that Miss Tree cover too.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna slab the Miss Tree cover. I'm going to read Daredevil because I never have, and I'm going to have to tear up that Swamp Thing, even though it's an Alan Moore Swamp Thing that I like. I've already got it in my cup on my sugar. I can tear that one up and still have it, so I'm okay tearing it up. I'll bring a little reality into it. I won't be tearing up my copy. I'll be tearing up that copy. That'll help me tear it up. 85. Lord Tapman was a freshman. I was a freshman in college. 84/85. That's a good group of comics.
Just getting
it also might be fun to turn the gun into a dolphin. Like a dolphin gun with its mouth open and the bullet shooting out. Sort of like one of those weird water pistols you always see.
Oh yeah.
But those are 3 good covers.
Those are.
Is that a Bissett cover on the or is that a Toddlebin? So Bissett and Toddlebin did the insides, it says there. So it could have been both of them on the cover too. All right. Well, that should end our show for the evening. A nice read, rip, and slab to end on.
Yep.
The mystery of Werewolf by Night number 12 does not end. I'm going to have to send that to my friend Ed. He might have an idea.
I would be curious to see who he says he may think it is.
Yeah. Thanks. Covers I like mossy. It's weird. All right, so you guys all have a good night out there. And we will catch you next time.
Stopping by.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.